Yeah, what's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Prison Break Raw. I'm your host, the one and only Big JD. Tag banging in the 1990s was a phenomenon that was prevalent in California, mainly like Southern California, like Los Angeles, Orange County, even San Diego. It made its way up into the north of the state, but it was big down in the south of the state. Whether it branched off into other places, it might have moved out as far as like Arizona, even Oregon, Nevada, places like that. But for the most part, it was big in California. But tagging doesn't have its origins in California. Tagging's origins were in New York. It was all about making political statements in the 1970s. And even tag is actually an acronym for Tough Artist Group. So it's only fitting that tag bangers would be established in California, considering the gang climate that was going on, specifically in like Los Angeles, Orange County, and places like that. It's a dangerous game to go out there and bomb up the walls, or if you're just going to hit something up, do a little quick little tag, whether you're scribbling, you're a toy, whatnot. When you're putting up a statement on the wall, you're going to piss somebody off. You might be writing in the wrong spot, and that's where the problems come. A lot of taggers been killed, man, been beaten to death, been beaten into comas, paralyzed, whatnot. Various times you'd have tagger crews that'd be out there, and they'd have some of their girls with them. The girls get raped, dudes get beat up. It was a rough scene. So taggers, specifically the crew that I ran with, UTK, you had to learn how to fight real fast, and you had to be tough, man, or that's gonna be your ass. Especially if you're going down into the panic zone in the greater Los Angeles area, out close to downtown in the riverbeds or whatnot, was a place to bomb. If you found a fresh spot down there in the panic zone and somebody else wanted it, there's going to be a scuffle. There's going to be maybe even a shooting, stabbing, whatnot was going to happen. So it was only a matter of time before these tagging crews started to become bangers. You had to bang. I mean, if you're going to make a statement, you better be prepared to back it up. So a lot of these crews formed, like K-Dubs and SSK, whatnot, Cams, Evil Kids, many others, UTK, UTI. You had all kinds of crews, CNA, many of them out there. And it was usually a battle. It was like a tag battle, but it would always end in some kind of violence most of the time, every time that I was ever out there to see it. So we started packing straps. We basically created our own identity, our own brand. We were all on that everybody killer time. We didn't give a fuck who it was. And we would just go out there and just straight wreak havoc, man. We chose the color burgundy because it symbolized the shit that we were into, knocking fools out, making them bleed. Burgundy is usually the color of blood. It's not really any brighter than that. So we use that color burgundy. Plus, when it dries, dries brown or like a burgundy color, whatnot. But you get the drift. We did a lot of bite-offs, too. We'd take people's styles, but we took bite-off to a whole different level. Like, we'd bomb up other people's neighborhoods in their rivals' neighborhoods just to cause fucking problems. I guess you can call it trolling in the old days. But that's what we did. We'd bite people's shit all the time, and sometimes people confuse us as Bloods because of the red, the burgundy we were wearing. We used to use that to our advantage just to piss people off all the time. I did it all the time. My homies did it all the time. But one of my homies actually had a lot of family in Inglewood family. His name was Goldie, and that's what he used to bomb up on the wall, Gold. And he got blown in half, man. I mean, it was just, he ended up in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time with the wrong people. He was down there visiting some family out on Crenshaw, where a lot of the Crips and Bloods and stuff would cruise down Crenshaw, where a lot of the homies, Vaudeville's and stuff would cruise down Whittier. And he got caught slipping one day, and you know, the rest is history. R.I.P. to Goldie. He's gone. But, yeah, that was my boy. It was like my best friend for a long time, man. He had a lot of influence on me. A lot of members of his family had influence on me. But for the most part, we were like pirates on the open sea. But pirates on the open streets of Los Angeles. It was open season on everybody. And there wasn't a blank spot on any wall, any freeway overpass, whatever it was. We were going to bomb it up. We were going to scribble it up. We were going to hit it up real quick, whatnot, and get out of there. But the bite-offs, man, the bite-offs was like the biggest thing for us. We used to cause all kinds of problems, man. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that if we were operating all the way up into the 2000s, we would have had an official green light on us. But there was that moment in time where the peace treaty was starting to kick off in the 90s, and a lot of these different tag crews, like SSK Evil Kids, were invited. Not many of them attended. They just kept the nomadic, individual, we ain't being controlled by nobody attitude all the way up into the early 2000s. And then eventually they just got put on with the 13 behind their name, and the rest is history. But yeah, a lot of the tagging, though, had been made famous in Los Angeles by one dude that did the most damage, and to this very day, he's got the record as the most damage done, almost $20 million in damage, and that was Chaka, or Roach, whatever you want to call him. He inspired a lot of me and my crew, like when we were starting out in 89 and 90. He was big in 88 and 89. There wasn't a spot you didn't go to where you didn't see scribbled up or hit up somewhere Chaka, or a big giant blast on the wall, bombed up Chaka somewhere, or Roach or whatnot. Eventually he got caught, and when he was going to court, he was even bombing up in the court elevator. That's just the way that cat was, man. Met him a couple times, pretty cool dude, but he wasn't really so much on that gang time. But he eventually started getting into the trafficking, getting into the various different forms of criminal activity, and he moved forward. But yeah, a lot of these neighborhoods, and then like out in Orange County, you had like Forming Chaos, you had like Devious Hoodlums, many others. I think even that neighborhood that's in City of Orange, I think they're called Orange County Criminals. I think they were a tag crew at one time. But it's not uncommon to say that a lot of members, a lot of these different well-established vaudeville's have been there for generations. Many of their members used to be tag bangers at one time, or rebels. There's even a neighborhood out there in LA, it's called West Side Rebels. And I don't know if they were a Rebels party crew, but they got the name nonetheless. Some people say they were. I've met a few of them in the CDC every now and again, but didn't really know too many of them. Never liked the Rebels party scene, never liked Rebels. We always had issues with them. You were a tag banger, you were having issues with Rebels, you were having issues with gang members. It didn't matter if they were Vaudevilles, Bloods, Crips, whoever they were. If you were up in their neighborhood and there was a fresh wall, you were jumping up out of your ride and you were bombing up, or you were at least hitting up, especially on the buses, on the back of the buses, inside of the buses. We had these one things too. It was I forget what it was called, but it was almost like an engraving tool, and you could sit there and you could carve into the glass on these buses. We used to do it all the time. But yeah, tag banging. It was a way to protect yourself and your fellow artist. And we didn't have a lot of the terms like gangs do, like dead homies and whatnot like that. Whenever we had somebody who dropped, we always called them a hero. So it was like a hero. We'd bomb up their name for him, or hit up their name and put hero next to them. That basically mean RIP, whatnot. Dead heroes, hero. But if you were like the original one, it was never like Big JD and Little JD. It was like JD Oneer or JD One. But mine was Cynic. That was the one I used to bomb up. Cynic One. Cynic Oneer. So yeah, that's what it was. Big JD came later though. But JD was always the name I got because they used to call me the dog. Because I would take one for the team, man. Whenever we were at one of these house parties or these pillow parties or whatnot, if somebody needed a wingman to get with that one girl that nobody wanted to get with, shit, put the dog on him, man. He'll take one for the team. I was just like that, man. But it was a blast back in them days, where the rebels and shit were all about controlling the house parties and the pillow parties, and they had all the girls that were stripping in the wet t-shirt contest and everything. We were the ones that were always big in the rave scene with the nitrous tanks and the LSD and all that, and girls just stripping butt naked. Everybody's sweating, hot as fuck in there. Whole place stinks. But you're so high on LSD and nitrous that you don't even know what's going on. Everything's like wah, 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 wah. So yeah, we made a lot of money off them raves, while the rebels made a lot of money off their party crews. We'd always crash them, though. We'd always have issues with them. One crew in particular, I remember, we always used to fucking smash on them. They were out there in Santana, and they were called Total Pleasure Boys. Straight weenies, man. Straight soft. Fucking funny as fucking, gay as hell. I mean, you should have seen these guys. The whole pompadour, everything going on, the long mullets and shit. Everybody had a mullet back then, though. I think, yeah, I had a mullet. I'm not going to lie. I had a mullet myself. But, yeah, man, we dressed like straight bangers. Like I said, we wore burgundy red. But back in those days, like in the late 80s and the early 90s, it wasn't all about, like, Sureño neighborhoods or whatnot didn't all just wear blue. Some wore blue. A lot of them wore blue, but they wore baby blue. Or a lot of them wore black. But there was several neighborhoods that wore just straight red, man. I mean, you look at them, you think it was a bunch of norteños. But just like it was, man. I even heard, I think it was F Troop at one point in time, their color was red. So it just goes to show you, I mean, you go into Long Beach and the Insanes, it's a Crip gang, and they wear red. So the color doesn't always exactly identify you as what you are. You can confuse that shit all the time. But yeah, doing the bite-offs, biting people's neighborhoods, causing problems, running around. We never grew in number to be like SSK or EK or any of them, Cams or K-Dubs. But we held our own, man. We were a couple of carloads deep, 2 or 3 carloads deep. And when you that deep rolling down Whittier Boulevard, it don't matter what street gang you're from. You could be from White Fence. You could be from Florencia, wherever you're from. If we're deeper and we're better packed, we're holding more straps than you, or we got more hands than you got, you're going to go down, man. I don't care how big your neighborhood is. You ain't big at that very moment. Had a lot of problems, man. But like I said, the whole thing about, like, residents and stuff. So taggers are identified as residents when they go into the county jail. Residents kind of a newer phenomenon that happened around, like, 2004 and 2005. It happened because of tag bangers. Crews that didn't want to, get locked into that tax and get locked into that being up under somebody, if you know what I'm saying. Those crews that did it, I mean, they gave a lot, and they caused a lot of neighborhoods to catch the blues, man. Because you had some of these tag banging crews that be driving around, be like 100, 200 deep. And they didn't have a specific location, a lot of them. I mean, like Cams and K-Dubs did, but others like EK or SSK and stuff, straight nomads. And like I said, pirates on the open sea. You couldn't isolate where they were at any one given time. Like an established neighborhood, be like Florencia or White Fence or whatnot, you usually always knew where they were. They had a spot. Tag bangers, it wasn't that easy. So it was a lot of problems for them, and eventually are going into the county jail. They got a green light put on them. They had to represent resident. They couldn't represent their tag name. They couldn't represent none of that stuff. Couldn't even have a placazo whatsoever. They had to go by their Christian name, their birth certificate name. Later on that came, so a lot of these tag crews became vitals at that moment. And I remember seeing the transformation, but like UTK for me, I mean, that shit died out around 93. It was completely dead by 93. Even though I kept a lot of the same things. I'm a hardhead, so I kept a lot of the burgundy and whatnot. Still caused a lot of problems, still fucked with people's heads. Still bombed up Cynic every now and then when I was bored or when I was just on one. But I started getting into that dope game, and a lot of that tag stuff just pretty much went out the window. But like I said, the whole tagging world revolved around hip-hop music, making political statements, bombing up, hitting up, scribbling, smashing out toys, whatnot. Then it just turned into a gang phenomenon, much like the Rebels did. And in the next part of this one right here, we're going to get into that whole story about the Rebels party scene and how we used to always give them cats the blues. They got a couple themselves, though. But we used to give it to them. You already know what it is. You heard it right here. Prison Break Raw, uncut, uncensored, no holds barred, not sugarcoat, not politically correct, all up in your face, slapping you with that dick of reality. And I'm out.